here and on the left here, but we are working on a new home for our beaches, which will make things a little bit more consistent instead of bouncing all over the place. We've come up so far with 4 locations, and we're going to do this, and then next Tuesday when we have a board meeting, we're going to vote on that and see where we're going to go. But so far, one is for free, 2 cost $150, and another one costs like $275. So, the 2 that are $150 is BYOB. For $275 has a bar, and the other place has a bar, but I don't know what the deal is yet. So I'm going to figure that out. But does that make a difference to you guys, BYOB or a bar? How about BYOB, raise your hand. A bar, raise your hand.
Bring your own bar.
I don't care. Raise your hand.
I don't care.
How about bring me the other bar?
No, that's not what to do with food.
So,
Well, if you can bring your own BYO, you can bring your own food too, right?
BYOF,
Yeah.
well, that's bringing your own friends.
Then you can send a
Yeah.
cage.
So tonight we're going to have Jeff Roberto talking about, he's the guru behind Sushi on a Roll, and I'll let you know when we have him come up. I'll be after a bunch of other little stuff. So I don't know, I'm excited to hear him speak because I can't do sushi at all.
You can.
Well, I can do some sashimi on both.
He
Soy
doesn't
sauce and chunks.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have the seaweed.
I've never tried to do any of the other stuff. This year. Okay, so hopefully some people got out before these storms, got out fishing before the storms. Anybody? Yeah?
Pretty quiet.
Pretty quiet? So nothing to report?
Just a couple of bites, but nothing that came up off the bottom, no.
Did you go south like you were thinking?
Yep.
Yeah?
I did see a picture from somebody that works at West Marine in Chula saying that they had caught a 39-inch halibut the day before in the bay. It's pretty nice looking fish. The conditions were actually pretty nice.
I personally probably wouldn't eat it out of the bay this week.
I thought a 39-inch halibut, I'd be eating it.
What do they say, 72 hours before you should eat anything out of the ocean after rain? Yeah, there was some reports, well, a buddy of mine, I went to a baby shower on Sunday, and they sat me next to somebody who turned out that I went to high school with, and oh my God, this baby shower might as well have been a quinceañera. They had a full-on table for the husband and wife, and all by themselves, all decorated and stuff. It was sit-down dinner with dinner service and dessert bar, a candy bar. It's a baby shower. But so the guy I was sitting with, turns out he owns his own boat. He's never been to a fishing club, so him and his buddy is going to come out next month and possibly join us. He said that he went out lobster fishing between the 2 storms last week, and he said they killed it. They had 14 lobsters, legals. That was good. And I don't know if you want to make it out of the rough and catch bonito in Catalina.
Oh.
I think that makes good lobster bait. So we're planning on fishing for lobsters tonight.
I was at OB a couple days ago, and those waves were big.
Yeah, no thank you.
They were breaking over the pier, but they were
Yeah.
splashing up to the pier. It was rough out there.
But also with these kind of big storms, if you're going out there on your own boats or whatever, also be careful of all the debris that's splashing out there. I've seen some pictures of some tree logs and
Wow.
other big debris. So if you've ever been out there running full speed on your boat and all of a sudden you hit something, it's scary. So our website is under construction. Dick, you want to touch base on any of that?
We're getting ready to try and sign up some hosting so we can get it put in place and then get everybody a chance to take a look at it before we actually try to launch it, I guess. Get some feedback, update it a little bit. I haven't touched it in a couple of weeks or a month, so some of the stuff's going to be out of date. But I'd like other people to be able to see it.
So because of COVID, our last website, SanDiegoLongReel.com expired, and now somebody's got it out there, but I don't know who, and so now we went to San Diego Long Reel Club, and so that'll be the new website, and then completely revamping that website, so thank you very much. Bar Hall is next month, February 16th to the 19th, and so we have people who signed up, and a lot of these people probably aren't here. If you have not signed up, you can go ahead and sign up. But we have 16 people that have signed up so far, and I created basically an hours sheet, so we need to kind of get that figured out. So I'll pass that around, and then try to make the squares as big as possible for the hours. But if you can just fill in your name as small as you can, but as legible as we can see it, so then we can try to fill in all the voids and make sure we have representation for that. I'll start it over here, pass it around. So, let's see here. So basically for, at Bar Hall, basically what we're going to be doing is handing out club literature. We're going to have a rod and reel that's going to be up for the raffle. The rod is actually the rod that you see over there at the raffle table. So that rod's not what's going to be raffled off tonight, but it's there as a display. We do have another rod that I forgot to bring. So we're going to give you an IOU on the rod for the next meeting, and we'll promise to get that to you. But that's a custom wrapped rod from M&M, and then we have a really nice reel that goes with it. Yeah, it's an Abbott. So we'll have that on display. We'll have a TV there with some DVD slideshow, different events, and a reel to win different prizes. So we need people to kind of man the table, preferably 2 people at a time, just so that in case somebody has to go to the bathroom, then they can take off a little bit. But there's going to be a money box there, so we really need 2 people there to make sure that we don't have any theft or anything. They're still working on the maps of the venue, so want to try to get a nice spot. Because before we kind of like get on a little bit on the outskirts, I want to try to get something a little more central, so that we get more people come to the table. Let's see here. Day at the Docks is the following month. Day at the Docks is on Sunday. It's always on a Sunday, March 19th. And so I have another.
That's Mercury, usually they have an April.
Yeah, it's usually in April, huh?
Right around Easter, yeah.
So we're still going to be doing the kids fishing pens for that. So we need volunteers to help kids catch fish.
That's not going to conflict with the Bar Hall in Long Beach, is it? Is
No,
the
that's
Bar
not
Hall
the
the
next
next month?
Yeah, it's the next month too.
Oh, okay, but it's not the same.
That is,
For end of March, going into April, I think.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't conflict anything,
so we secured the same spot that we've had in years past. We had to bring our own canopy this time because they said that the cost of canopies has tripled. So I told them no problem, I'll bring my own. You can park in the neighborhood, or you can park in that $12 parking area next to Fisherman's, or you can do the free shuttle on the Shelter Island. So there's no shuttle people that's in there. And then also, if you sign up, you'll get a staff shirt with Day at the Docks picture on the back. And so then that
Good
day,
idea, Gary, I like that.
so a little incentive there for you to help join. But if you've never done it before, it's a lot of fun helping these kids catch mackerel. I don't know if they don't feed those mackerel for like 2 days or something. Mackerel fighting. And so something breaks off, just releasing them that go back into the pens, and the kids just have a lot of fun with it. A lot of those kids have never even caught a fish before. Once I had an old lady who she had never caught a fish before, and I said, come on, she said, no, kids. I said, no, I want you to catch a fish. You can't, live this life this long without catching a fish, and she got all excited and stuff, so it's a lot of fun. And the news waves come down, so you might even be on the news. So I'm going to pass this one around, separate, so you can sign up for that. Let's see. Let's see here. And then next month I'll do the same thing, pass around an hour's sheet, so that we can get that there as well. On the Barn Hall one, I grayed off a couple of areas because during the week it starts at 12, on the weekend it starts at 10.
What time do they close during the week?
During the week they close at 7, and on Saturday at 7, and Sunday at 5. Okay, any questions on any of that stuff? Nope. All right. Tournaments and charters. John Chucka, you want to give us a little heads up on some of the stuff we're planning on that?
Well, we're planning some overnight trips, perhaps a half-day charter as well. We're going to have some tournaments coming up for those of you with private boats. So we'll have some events, hopefully to cater to most everyone. And if anyone has any suggestions, give me a call, let us know.
And so then for those tournaments, so John's also the weighmaster, and so they're fishing the tournament, bringing the heaviest fish, and he'll automatically get you in on the weight receipts. Otherwise, there was a pen with all of that, where'd it go?
I'm sorry.
I see the
I was also going to add, and I think this is what Gary's alluded to, is turning in weight receipts. We've got some prize winners from 2022 that have some gift cards coming to them, and if you've got a nice catch in 2023, send the form, fill out the form, take a picture of it, and send it to me, and we'll get you set up for a nice prize at the end of 2023 if your catch holds up.
And so how many times can they win the prize?
They can win twice. And what that means is you get $80 worth of a gift card at Tackle Store. So you win up to 80. Each prize is worth $40.
And then do they still get a certificate for the other ones? Are we doing certificates?
We haven't discussed that.
Okay. I think we should still do certificates. They're usually worked out. And then also, make sure you add a picture and a little bit of a story. You can pass that pen back there too for the other one. No, it's not.
There.
I purposely put the Gary Mouritzen pen. Who's coordinating for it? Well, it'll be probably between Arnie and myself. I've been going into communication with them so far, and so.
First, there will be a second closure that's going to happen on September 16th, and it's going to run until the end of the year. Now, one thing, what happened there is the PFMC, Pacific Fishery Management Council, they gave the recommendation that they think that we're overfishing the rockfish, and that would provoke the second closure. Now, Wayne and CCA, Wayne and Chris and CCA, they're working with the council again, because they're going to take another vote here in the spring to whether they actually going to run that closure. And I tell you what, I looked at a lot of these rockfish catches coming to the end of 2022. They have some pretty dang healthy red rockfish, all kinds. I mean, we know, okay, that the chuckleheads are kind of off limits, and that's fine. But what they're going to do, they're going to open all the rock fishing games in the sablefish, your lingcod are gonna be able to catch west of the 50,000 line. So there will be some rock fishing available, but, you know, I kind of feel bad for the, well, yeah, there's gonna be bycatch, and then also the operators, I think the half-day trip operators, you know, they're kind of the thing, they go out and fish deep in the morning, but then what happens is, when the weather changes a little bit, it starts to get windier, they usually come in to shallow. They're taking that away from them. So they're fighting to try to get that stopped, so that doesn't happen. And so again, we always been talking about 30 by 30s. That's the reason why everybody, I think, just who fishes should belong to CCA. Give the CCA as much support as we can. Because they're out there fighting against kind of ridiculous closures like this right now. So let's beware. If you guys go to Mexico, catch fish, catch some nice reds, don't come across the border, don't drop a line. You just don't want to get, you don't want to have to deal with DFW with the argument, well, you dropped the line, you caught it inshore. You caught it on the side of the line. No, I caught it. You don't want to just become part of that argument because, yeah, as much as a brilliant argument you may come up with, you're more than likely going to lose.
They visited me on Sunday.
Huh?
I was just on a drift on Sunday in the bay, and they came by and checked on, make sure I have a license and everything.
Right. So there'll be our.
Really?
Yeah, ordered my vessel, yeah.
There was a truck out there Sunday too, wasn't
It was in the bay though.
The thing with the rock cut is, we fish it as an alternative, because nothing else is biting. Now it's during the summertime, when we've got other options, so it's kind of, I don't know if you've done that or not, but I'm not fishing rock cut, John.
We fish the yellow guys.
Right, exactly.
So if you catch rockfish in Mexico, don't stop on the yellowtail boil on the way home.
Yeah, right, pretty
Yeah.
much.
You can sit there going, yeah, just keep driving. Yeah, it's not worth it, because obviously like he's saying, they're watching that closely. They're looking, so, yeah, don't incur yourself a fine.
Have they done an analysis on the cowcod population and how that's after the closures?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because late 2021, they declared that the cowcod population is rebuilt. Okay, so now, anglers were all asking, okay, if it's rebuilt, why can't we fish it? Yeah, and they don't have an answer for it. So, yes.
And if you do go rock fishing, especially in those depths, I mean, doesn't have to be that deep. I mean, out of the Whistler, it's only like 70, 80 feet, and you bring up this fish and it floats. So definitely have some kind of a
Yeah, have a setting device.
I've got one of those ones that is the pressure, and you set it at the depth you want it, and I've saved so many fish doing that. I got one of those after I was trying to revive one, because I'm like, maybe you can revive it. And my brand new glasses fell off.
Oh, no.
With that, and it's like,
So
okay,
you
I'm
gave
not-
it CPR,
I'm good.
mouth to mouth. Yeah.
If you give mouth to mouth to a fish, people are going to look at you weird. Yeah, no, definitely, like, John can tell you, I always have that pressure regulator thing, setting device thing, and I wish the party boats would do those too.
Well, that's the thing they're trying to do now. They're trying to get all the party boats to start using that. I really feel party boats this year, because the closures really gonna pinch them, because what, they're gonna have 5 months to fish. If they do this is insane.
Well, my own personal opinion, so I've talked about opinion, but my personal opinion is that a lot of the party boats, they just keep those tiny little rockfish like this. If anything, do a size limit on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, try to keep the population as healthy as you
Yes,
Who's coordinating, organizing the carnival?
you're looking out.
And you're gonna go to the storage unit and get the setup and all that?
Yes, sir.
In there.
Mary and I have already discussed that.
Cool.
Way ahead of me. But thank you.
You're doing a great job, Gary. A lot of work.
It is.
Yeah. It is.
All right, Jeff. Yeah. Come on up. Jeff Roberto, please give me your full attention.
Ready to bring any sushi today?
I got my chopsticks.
I'll be around. Got plenty more time to do that. But, so I thank you, Marty, for the invite and thank you for showing up. Welcome. So, how many people eat sushi? There you go. How many people make sushi? Oh, good. Yeah, exactly, right? So it's not recognizable.
She said she didn't like sushi. I said, just, we'll get it down.
Yeah, exactly. That you're not worried about it.
Then I got her stuff and something else.
Yeah. So the most popular roll in most sushi bars is in California. Right. And it's the best seller if you look at the business side. That's what pays for it. Right. So I've been doing sushi here in San Diego since '87. Since '87.
What restaurant?
Yakitori 2. So there's one in La Mesa, Sports Arena, and then there was one in downtown. So the one downtown, La Mesa, was owned by one guy named Larry Hahn that owned Taco Bell's in Texas. And his partner in Guam owned the Yakitori in Sports Arena. Japanese guy. Yeah, so I worked there for years. Yeah. So that was my training. So back then it was Japanese chefs, right? And then a Filipino guy trying to learn sushi. So yeah, so I got lucky to kind of learn from them. And unfortunately what happened, a buddy of mine was managing one of the restaurants and he hired his brother, his next door neighbor, and me, and then he said, just bring your friends in and I'll hire them. So 8 of us are from our high school, Bonita Vista. Yeah, so we've opened, in 30 plus years, we've opened 15 restaurants in town. So Junior Seattle was a big one. We did East Street Alley. We did a bunch around town, and it's just fun to kind of open and spend people's money, right? So so I started Sushi Roll in '93, and so we'll be 30 next month, and it was because of Frank Presley. You know, Frank comes to you and kind of wants to start a business and stuff, and I was used to say yes to Frank, and fortunately or unfortunately, I said no to him because I wasn't ready. I knew how to make sushi. I didn't know the business side. So, but I had this business plan with a sushi catering company that I wanted to do. He loved it, and he just gave me the blessing for that. And ever since then, we started at Seaport sport fishing for like 6 months. And so then we started, my model was to cater to the executive chefs of all these properties. So I do all the hotels. I do the Hyatt, Marriott, Hotel, I do them all, right? So all these executive chefs don't know how to make sushi. So I get the phone call from them, right? So everyone has sushi on the menu. When you party at the Hyatt, at the Marriott, any hotel, they have sushi on the menu, and you want $1,000 worth of sushi, I get the phone call. So that was my model. Instead of having a sushi bar, I would go to your house, or I would go to all these corporate events mainly. So we're doing one right now at the Prado for like 50 people. But we've done parties up to 16,000 guests. That was for Qualcomm, its 50th anniversary. We did 43,000 pieces in a single day. Yeah, so I had 29 sushi chefs do that. So the hardest part of making sushi is the rice. The actual definition of sushi is rice. It's not even about your protein. Your protein's got to be last. But if your rice is no good, your sushi is no good, right? So in Japan, it takes, learn how to make rice right, 3 to 5 years in Japan. Here in America, everyone wants to do it so fast, so 3 to 5 weeks, right? So the rice is horrible. So when you go to these sushi bars, you can just try the rice. If the rice is no good, then why are you going to pay $20 for that bluefin tuna with rice on it? It's horrible, right? So that's the whole deal. So the actual definition of sushi is vinegared rice. So we're the only vinegared rice in the culinary field. So that's why we're so popular, because it's so addicting, right? And then you put a piece of bluefin on it, a local bluefin on top. It's just amazing. But the California rolls give you that. You can do like a blue crab or a snow crab California roll, and it's the best, right? So now you can kind of change it. So back in the day, you only had a tuna roll with the seaweed on the outside, the small one, called a tekamaki, or cucumber roll called a kakamaki. California rolls were starting to come out, but then you had fish on rice and sashimi. That was your menu. That was it. It was really small. And now your menu is like, I mean, you put 20 different fish in that roll, and people want it. You know, it's amazing. And it's just your roll. You just kind of just create it, right? You create what we call it omakase. And so that's what it is to this day. Unfortunately, it's tough now for some of these chefs to understand all that. But it's The unfortunate thing is a lot of these guys want to be making sushi right here, right away, and they don't even know the basic stuff of it, right? So you got, so it takes years to learn that, and I learned with the Japanese guys, and we had a good time. So it's one of the few jobs that you can work and drink on the job. Because you guys are able to drink, right? So that was my deal. When everyone in the sushi bar is like, we're okay to drink, right? And they're like, of course. And so, we would drink a ton. It was crazy. And we were like in our 20s. And to see it grow, so back in '87, there was only 7 sushi bars in San Diego, right? Yakitori 2, they're all Yakitori 2, had 3 locations. Ota didn't open up yet. We had Miki-san, we had, there was like 4 other ones, and that was it. And then until the 90s, and everyone started opening them up, right? And then Ota opened up Mr. Sushi first, right? And then he finally found his spot for Ota Sushi, right? So he's the best. Very traditional, very high-end, very Japanese, very authentic. So that's why a lot of people go there. Everybody else will have, he doesn't do California rolls. Everybody else below him will, right?
Is he in Mississippi?
He is, yeah. So he just retired last year.
Oh.
Yeah. So his wife used to work with us. So I get to know a lot of these chefs. So fortunately what happened with me was I worked at the fish market, right? You guys went to that sushi bar back when they had it.
Yeah.
Mr. Sushi, after Ota-san left, Mr. Sushi hired me. And then another group hired me. So I was working at 4 sushi bars at the time. And they were not hiring my friends. So I thought I was good. Because these Japanese guys, to work with these Japanese guys are pretty intimidating, honestly, right? It's a whole different culture. Being Filipino, not even knowing that whole side of it. And trying to learn it, right? And fish, I mean, it's high-end product. It's just, I mean, tuna back then was still pretty pricey than what it is today. But to cut a piece of that and to hack it, it's just, oh my gosh, I don't know if you're going to die with a knife getting thrown at you or something. But you got to go through it, right? And so that's what we learned, and now we learn about food costs and all of that. And
You always use fresh.
you're supposed to, so sashimi grade fish should not smell, right? That's the fresh. That's the ocean you smell. So when you get this frozen product, unfortunately, a lot of these sushi bars we use, has no smell at all probably for a week, right? Because it's gas and it just sits longer. But then when you give it an ocean, right, and tuna locally, to that first taste, it stays fishy, but that's how it should be. You should be tasting the ocean from that fresh fish. That's all you should be tasting, right? If you take a piece of fish and it doesn't smell, use it for sashimi. It has a hint of smell, cook it, right? You're okay. But if you can smell it obviously 10 feet away, then obviously it's hot, right? But sashimi, if you get the bluefin out here, I mean, 2+ days you can probably eat raw. You know how to care for it is the whole deal, right? That's what you catch it like, or you probably heard me when it's talking about, we're talking about ikijime on Let's Talk Hookup. And that's one way to kind of do it, right? It's a spike in the head, and it holds the animal the longer, longevity to eat it raw, longer, right? And the color and everything, right? So that's what you do. So you can spike it in the head. So there in the head, so within the spine, right? There's another little circle that goes to the nervous system. That's where you throw the wire down, and it kills the animal instantly and humanely without it building heat inside the flesh. So if you cut a piece of tuna, and you can see these prisms in there, that's the heat. That's the heat. Nothing wrong with it. If you put it side by side, you might be able to tell the difference. But obviously when it doesn't have it, it's taking care of it better. And the smaller fish, this is why we got out Let's Talk Hookup. The smaller fish, you can't really see that little piece where you get at the tail. And the same thing, just with a little wire. It's got to be a wire. It can't be a monofilament with a bend. Because you got to do all the nervous system. So it disengages the nerves from the nervous system and kills it instantly. And that's how they do it. So if you see a hole in the forehead, that's what they've done, right? And you see it on the Royal Star, they do that quite a bit. And the color of that is just that ruby red color when their fish comes out and the processing is amazing.
That fish just relax.
Yeah, right, and that's what it does, right? And that's what you want it to do, right? And I've heard about other ways you relax fish, like even duck before they get to make it float well. They actually let it swim into the pond, and when they come out, that's when they hit it, right? So it relaxes in that pond before they kill it. But that's what you want to do, right? So kind of. But that tuna, so the tunas, they got to be the best, right? The yellowtail that you see is from Japan, not our local stuff, right? So hamachi, it's called hamachi. So hamachi is a category that has an oil, right? So Japan hamachi yellowtail looks like a tuna, right? It's called a buri. They're big, it's like a bullet, like a bomb, right? Like a tuna. It's just fatty. Our local yellowtail We do, but most sushi bars will use, because it's Japanese, will use a Japanese brand, right? And that's flown from Japan. So you can get fish from Japan. I get fish before COVID from Sushi, and they would put just ice, just regular ice cubes in my bluefin tuna, right? They wouldn't freeze it, they would kind of ship it 11 hours, right? So Ota's a deal was he would get fish back even in the day from Japan to San Diego Airport, he would pick it up. So his fish was very authentic, right? Versus using local or anybody else. So that he's been doing that for years, right? And up until now, before COVID, probably 3 years before COVID, I was offered for my vendor to go grab it free of charge for me, right? And they would bring it to my store. So I have a Japanese grocery store and that's we do stuff there. But it's kind of weird on how, and it's a little bit more pricey in Japan, but if I don't have to pay for shipping, then you're gonna buy that stuff. And so I would sell it in our Japanese grocery store to these Japanese families, because you can't buy bluefin tuna or any fish from Japan by the pound here anywhere. Like you can't even go to Ota. Ota's not gonna sell you by the pound. He's gonna sell you sashimi cuts and charge you $40 for 3 pieces of fish. But I could sell it, they would buy for the scallops and the yellowtail, right? And that's what you want. So the salmon's from up north, Pacific Northwest is good. And that's what you look for, right? You go to these sushi bars, and it's got to just be vibrant colors, right? If it's not vibrant, it's just all in, just not as fresh. And so that's what you want. So go to these sushi bars that are busy, obviously, because it's just turning over a product. You got to know it. So a lot of our fish, even back in the day, we wouldn't freeze it, right? We get a whole yellowtail, a whole tuna, and all that stuff, and we would cut what we need, right? So like a 20-pound tuna, we would cut a quarter of it and leave the 3/4 on the bone still. And we would wrap it, right, so it still stays fresh on the bone. Even the yellowtail like that. But now it kind of comes back to back frozen, and there's certain ways that some of these processes we can get it from a pound we need, whatever pound we need at this point. But go ahead.
If you're getting sushi in a sushi bar, do they specify whether it's Japanese tuna or?
It's some shit. And a sushi bar is a little bit different. Sushi bar, you can ask the chef, obviously, where it comes from, right? And unfortunately here, if it's tuna and it's bluefin, it could be local. And you want that local stuff. That local stuff is amazing. But yeah, some of it, if you go to like say Mitsuwa and then, they'll say Japanese hamachi, and they might say previously frozen. So previously frozen is okay. It's a curing process for us. So we get a 20-pound salmon, we can't serve it all in 2 or 3 days.
Right.
So we kind of freeze part of it, right? And nothing wrong with it. As long as you get rid of it fast. Right? You don't want it there for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, and you get freeze it, right, all that stuff.
Freeze it for a week and use it.
Yeah, so now that vacuum pack kind of comes into play now. So do that, and they'll help a little bit longer. But just rotate. But like bluefin, I get a lot of people that want to cook bluefin right away. I'm like, this is like the best in the world right now. It's just here. Like eat it raw as much as you can. Give it to a lot of people first, and then second, third day, then cook it. At least appreciate that what we're getting out here, right? 'Cause before, when 7 years ago, I would get fish. I do a lot of stuff. So my quick story: when I started, Frank Presley wanted me to kind of start this whole deal. That's why I do a lot of these parties. I got to see fish, and I would serve at Yakitori Sports right now. I would serve all these captains: Tim Angstrom, Randy Toussaint, Ryan Kiyohara, Fred Hubert. All these guys would come to learn fish. Get to learn how to cut it. Get to learn how to eat it. Get to learn how to serve it, and all that stuff. And local. And so now with my name on it, it's got to be the best, right? And it's that bluefin is just, back then, 7 years ago, it was that 200 pound and 150 pound was just, it wasn't good. It didn't have the oil, but now, that 300 pound, that 350 pound, phenomenal. You don't want it that big, but phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah. It's
They would be all that good.
yeah. Oh, I know, right? Like 100, like 80 to 100 pounds is probably the base I would get to have it kind of the best, kind of the texture-wise, flavor-wise, and all that, right? Anything bigger than that is just, not saying worth it, but that bluefin is, I've had 350 pounds. It's just, yeah. I mean, even the tail of that bluefin is, so that's why they cut the tail, right? The tail that they cut, and you see the wicked tuna, they cut that portion out, and what it is, they see the color, so it's got to be that ruby red color, and then the oil content dictates price. So you have 5 fish, so one's got to be the best, and one's got to be not so best, right? So the best one is say, I mean, this bluefin tuna you can, you can buy for like $129 a pound. Yeah, so you get a big fish, you can buy it for, I don't know, say $16, $20 a pound. It's smaller, so now the fillet, that's that's your $129, so it takes some work, right? But, so if this is good, the whole fish should be better, right? That's what you see in Japan too. In Japan, all the fish are frozen, and they get all these core samples, and it's because it's frozen, they have a tool, and they tap the tail. They themselves, these brokers, will kind of rub it in their fingers to find the oil. It's that oil, they'll take a flashlight and see that color. Again, that takes price. So they're the broker for your sushi bar all over the world, right? They're the ones that buy all your stuff. But just that little stuff to kind of just see where it comes from. And I tell all these people who fish and want to eat sashimi, they'll keep the fish for like a week with the head and tail still on. I go, but that doesn't mean it's still fresh, right? You can't just keep it there. I mean, you can probably keep it on ice and see how long it lasts, but no, you can't. Just because it has the head and tail doesn't mean it's still kind of out of the water. But yeah, vacuum back those processors and vacuum back that stuff and just hold it. It's just amazing. Even the skeleton. So we take the 4 loins out of it, the collar, the head, and then we call it the frame, the skeleton. And then in between the ribs, there's still some meat inside. So you actually take a spoon and you scrape on it. And that's like the best. We call it scrape. Yeah, and that's the best because it doesn't really move. It just kind of sits there. It just gets all nice and yummy. And so that tradition goes into your like your tuna roll or your spicy tuna roll. But now we serve all the chefs eat that. We don't eat the other stuff. Yeah, you take it. I was talking about that rock on breakfast. Oh my God, you need some scraping kind of. But it's the best because it just sits there, right? The belly's good, but it's oily, right? It can be very, very rich, and to some people it's kind of hard. A lot of Japanese, I see, so we call that toro, right? And then the rest of it's called red, right? We call it akame. And that's what the Japanese want. They don't want the rich side. They want just the bluefin that's just nice and yummy and soft and tender. So that's what you look at, right? So you go to these sushi bars and see what you want. You have to sit at the sushi bar. If you don't sit at the sushi bar, so before COVID, before all this takeout and stuff, you sit at the sushi bar, you sit with me, right? I cut the fish, I get the best, right? My other chef cuts the fish, I might have second best, right? So you sit with the guy who's cut the fish. You sit with me, we have a good time, we drink, we kind of eat, and we get together. Hot sake, anything. Yeah, anything. We drink anything. Yeah. And so we get to know each other. And then like 3 or 4 times you sit with me. Then you sit in the dining area, like your family's in town, or you got like 8 people. I might still take care of you. But usually the people in the dining area, the rookie guys taking care of that side. Because that's how they learn, right? It might not be the best fish either, right? But it's just part, they get the tail, I get the belly, and that's what they right? So even before COVID, again with the takeout, when you do takeout, it's even worse because it's usually my dishwasher guy trying to learn, right? Because you're not opening that box before you leave, right? And you go home and it's like, oh, this is horrible. But that's what it is, right? Unless we know you. So you gotta get to know one of us. Go to any sushi house and get to know one of your chefs. And,
Get the better version.
yeah, you call them up, right? Say, hey, I'm picking up sushi for 10 or whatever. We like this, and we'll give you the good stuff, but we have no idea who you are. It's very, very different, right? But I tell people when you go traveling, you don't know if that sushi bar is going to be any good, right, across from your hotel. I tell people, give them a drink. Give them a drink. It changes everything so fast. And if they can't drink, at least you offer it, right?
Yeah.
And they'll still give you the best of the best. It's amazing. Hey, you pay Toro, you pay 2 pieces of Toro for like $25, right? You these guys a drink, maybe 3 pieces. Yeah, it's so different. I've seen it evolve. Again, with the California roll, it came out like the late 80s and started getting big. So a lot of the rolls back then, the rice was only in the inside, not on the outside. Right? So now that rice on the outside, we call it a reverse roll. Right? And there's a lot of the new chefs don't know how to make the smaller traditional size roll. So that's my test when I go to the sushi bars. You make me those 2 rolls and I see what you got. Right? Because otherwise they don't know how to make it. Otherwise they don't know tradition and fundamentals. So that's my thing. Anyone can make a reverse roll. You put 10 pounds of rice on the seaweed and it'll still close. In the smaller roll, there's rice in the inside with your protein, so your rice has to be less, and as much as your protein does, so it can kind of close together. That's the whole deal. That's my test. The roll's got to close, obviously. So, and the rice, when you put the rice on there, it's got to stick, right? So it takes. Yeah, so you have to wash the rice as much as you can, at a minimum 10 minutes. And if you buy the cheaper stuff, even longer, right? You take out all that starch. The more starch, the more clear your water is, the better it is. You're trying to pull all that starch out. You don't want sticky rice, you want steamed rice, right? So we let it sit in the rice pot another 15 minutes, so 25 minutes in that rice pot, and then we cook it. So it takes 25 minutes to cook, we let it steam for another 20 minutes.
So you soak it.
You soak it, yes, and the grain gets bigger, it absorbs the water. So instead of 1-to-1, it's a little less than 1-to-1, right? But the rice is going to be the best, so it's science. So if exactly 4.25 cups of rice to 4.2 cups of water, it's always going to be the same, right? So if you do less water, less rice, it's going to be a different outcome. Yeah, I mean, even timing, you float out 5 minutes early, 5 minutes late, everything changes with rice, right? It's got to be the best. And so, so you got to learn with your rice cooker. Right? So we try to use gas. Gas is more consistent, right? When you use electric, it depends on what else is turning on and off. It kind of puts a surge on the record. And so, when that's done, so after it's done in the pot for almost an hour now, we take it out and we put a rice vinegar. Rice vinegar sugar salt mix called Sushi soup. And now you can buy it. It has, if you look at the back of the ingredients on the rice vinegar, seasoned rice vinegar, it has sugar and salt in there. And that's what we pour on top as a preservative. Right, so that's what hold it. If you got room temperature for 8 hours, it won't build any bacteria. Right, only preservative, not a flavoring. There's some of these sushi bars, and it's you can taste all the vinegar. I can put this $20 piece of bluefin on top, and what do you taste? Right. It doesn't make sense, right? So it's not really. It's just a hint over what you can kind of taste, but it's more of a preservative than anything. So we take that hot rice, we put the vinegar on top, take the hot rice at the bottom, and we kind of bring it to the top, and we separate it. We call it cutting. 15 minutes later, we take the hot rice at the bottom, and we bring it to the top. We do 50 cups of rice. And we kind of separate it for 1 hour before we can use it. Because if it's hot rice with raw fish, you put it together, it's going to cook the fish, right? So you make sure. So I tell all people, if you're doing it at home, just make the rice in the morning, right? Then you go shopping. At least you know it's going to be cool enough. And you just leave it on your counter, your Tupperware, the lid on top. You don't have to put it in the fridge, because if you put it in the fridge, it's going to get hot, crunchy, right? So you just leave it on the counter, lid on top. After an hour, it's kind of cool. And then go shopping and do all that, and then you can make sushi. But also you can tell if your sushi, if your rice is bad or not already before you start making sushi. Because if it's so wet or so dry, you can tell. So that's why we came up with like a tempura roll. Kind of changes all that for us. We use some bad rice, we kind of put it on the roll, you throw the tempura batter, and changes everything, right? But you gotta watch all these tricks. It's kind of crazy. Like I opened I did junior stay out sushi bar in '99, right? I did a lot of stuff with junior. And then a mile down, I opened one at the Red Lion Hotel. I did that too, I built that too. And we took the junior's favorite roll, which is the tempura roll, and brought it to the Crown Plaza, and before it was Red Lion. We called it a Crown Plaza roll, right after the hotel. And we were selling that roll for like $16. And we were killing it, because that roll would cost me, I don't know, $1.25 to make. Right? It's just tempura and rice and all that stuff. And it was just, and we put, it was actually named the original hotel called Holly Bay Roll. And it was the top of our menu. And we sold tons of it. Just what people wanted. People wanted cooked, people wanted hot, people wanted the eel sauce and all that stuff. It's just very different, right? And we would sell tons. And then we get big, right? So we put tempura and a tempura batter and breadcrumbs and all that stuff. It gets bigger and bigger. So instead of, and it's just one size sheet. Each sheet of loading is this size, right? It's always this size. And so people are like, oh, how many rolls? I get 20 rolls out of in my place. Like, but it's the same sheet. But when you put tempura on it, it gets bigger. It can make 15, 16 rolls out of that same sheet. Yeah, it's crazy. We get some of these sushi chefs, it changes everything, right? Sashimi, yeah, you make the best, especially if you sit at the bar. And you see what everybody eats too, right? Someone eats something that's off the menu, and you can see who my regulars are, because you're not even talking to them, I'm just feeding them, right? And then start talking to you guys, and kind of see who you are. And that's how we kind of create this stuff. So 8 of my friends came up to 50 sushi chefs that I trained along the way, and that's how you want to be events. Yeah.
So where's your market at?
So it's a national city called Kyoto. It's a Japanese market. So it's been around that area for 60 years.
Wow.
So we took it over 2018. A buddy of mine owned it for the last 30 years. And he knew my story. He wanted to retire, kind of want to settle down. So I picked it up for a really good price before COVID, 2018. I was in Bari, Logan. I built a private sushi bar. Barney's been down there. An 4,300 square foot sushi bar there, or a whole building, and a private sushi bar that's set 30, only for events. I didn't open to the public at all. I had that for 16 years. And everyone, it was a circle sushi bar, so everyone kind of came in with us. We do classes, we do private events, we do all kind of corporate stuff. But yes, sushi, I tell a lot of people when you're trying to close deals, business deals, bring them to the sushi bar. Get a drink, maybe drink a little bit. I'm telling you, just sign the deal quick. It's
There you
great.
go, Gary.
Yeah, I'm telling you, great guys. Sushi did, yeah, right?
So did he bring cards for you?
I didn't bring car. I already has my info, but yeah, we've been doing sushi a long time. We do a lot of stuff. We do the captain's reception, right, with the wicked tuna guys. We do a lot of stuff around town. We do a lot of corporate stuff. We do a lot of charity stuff. Like Tommy goes, we might do a lot of events together. He brings the fish. He cuts the fish down, and me and my guys break it down. So we do like poke out of that. We do sashimi. Everybody wants to see the whole fish. A lot of these people have never seen a whole fish with the head on it, right? And then when you bring a tuna, or 40, 50, 80 pound tuna, they just. I tell people that the fish gets more pictures than I do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everybody wants that's pretty cool.
So do you do classes anymore?
I do, yeah.
You do?
Tons of them, yeah. We do a lot of more team building. So we did one for these 18 CEOs came in town, and they want to learn how to cut fish. So we do teams of 2, so there's 9 teams of 2. And I showed them how to cut. I had a whole fish myself. We didn't show them what they had to do. Right? We cut the fish, we had all the ingredients, and they would, instead of telling you to make California roll, spicy tuna, veggie, and all that stuff, we do what's called a marketplace. You make whatever you want, right? So they were grabbing the tuna here and stuff, and then when they're all set up at their stations, they said, oh, I forgot to tell you this. So my guys, 2 of my chefs, we're bringing 9 tuna on garment racks, 3 on each one, hanging, like Iron Chef style. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, you have to cut your own fish. Oh my God, they're so stressed, it's crazy. But that's what they want to do too, right? That's the experience. That's what they want, right? And they hack it. It's just awful to watch, but it's just what they want to do. I mean, the only way you're gonna learn is by doing it, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the classes are fun. The classes we do a bunch of more team building, they call them, right? And when they do it, it's not too. A lot of these chefs. They just want to, I don't know, they just want to work at a sushi bar and serve people there, maybe go to your house and do a party every now and then. But my deal was not to really own a sushi bar, but to be out in places like this and all over, I mean, I've been all over the place. And it's fun because it's different environments,
Right, different.
you know? Yeah, my chefs fly me to Portland, Oregon, Savannah, Georgia.
Wow.
Fly the fish there, and we do all the same thing over there. And like Hawaii, we do stuff there. It's just, sushi's hot. And now the poke bowls, right? The poke bowls is where it's at now. So you don't need meat anymore to run a poke house, right? Maybe you need meat to cut fish. Yeah, you need meat to cut fish, but now you just have a junior chef that's, you want, these are your ingredients. You just kind of pick and choose, they fill the bowl, and you're ready to go, right?
I just was in Kauai, and they had a truck, and they were just
Did you have some?
filling the poke right off the truck.
Did you see some? That's the best.
Yeah.
So if you look at Hawaii, the fish, like our bluefin here now, the ivy there is just the best one. It could be hours old.
I
It could
had
be-
that at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh,
It could be an hour
so
old,
good.
like our bluefin. Have you had our bluefin here, our local
Yeah.
bluefin?
Yeah.
So that's even 100 times better. This is softer.
Yeah,
So when I get fish from Hawaii, it'll take 5 hours at least to get here.
yeah.
So it's not as good as Hawaii anymore, right? Because it's older, at minimum 5 hours. And so you don't know when they had it, and but it's still above average than what we can get here, and at least before. And so that's what you look for, right? You have some chefs, like Florida would be like number 2 besides what we're getting now. Florida, I would probably be number 2, right? Hawaii's number 1, so we get Hawaii, that's premium, right? So it depends what your guests are paying, right? So now a lot of people get it from Florida because it's cheaper.
I was surprised at the prices for in Hawaii weren't that any higher than what we pay here.
Right. Yeah, because it's just there.
Yeah,
Nothing
well,
to
that's
eat there.
true.
Yeah, so you don't have to.
And that's why bluefin is probably cheaper here too, because it's
Yeah.
local and it's plentiful when it's around.
We
But
went to a
yeah,
nice restaurant and I had ahi, oh my God, it's so good.
yeah. So now you go to some of these places. Unfortunately, now it's getting to a point where they're using that frozen stuff. They put a nitrogen gas into it. Yeah. So you go to Costco, it's a frozen. I mean, if it looks fake, it's fake.
Yeah.
Don't buy it. When you've seen real fish, right? So this stuff it'll be that same color for a week.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't discolor because it has a gas in it, right? And so, unfortunately, that's what a lot of people use because it's price point. So when you go to some of these poke houses, look at it. And, like if you go to these poke houses, so that tuna, even though it's wrapped in a paper towel, there's still moisture there. So I tell people, you wrap it in a paper towel, or on the bottom there should be a paper towel so that it's pulling all that moisture out. Right? So you go to these poke houses, look at that tuna in that bowl, if it's gray, it's that juice that they didn't pull out. Right? So a lot of these junior chefs don't know that. They just, tuna, they just start putting it there, and it's not to say there's nothing wrong with it, but you can get better, get cleaner if you do it right? Yeah. So paper towel, so I was on with Apple, with Robbie Gant, and Ali Husseini, doing a podcast, and I was trying to, I said, let's get Bounty as our sponsor, or Brownie or somebody. There's tons of paper towel. There's tons of paper towel, right? Just because you wrap it, right? So you get frozen stuff, and it should. And when you freeze it, you just want to put paper towel on the bottom, on the skin side, right? Because otherwise it can stick onto the flesh side of it, right? So it'll still defrost in your fridge. So you poke a hole in there, right, to get the air in, and then you can leave it in your fridge and it'll defrost. Or you can wrap the whole thing, take it out of the whole bag, and wrap the whole thing, and you'll see the moisture come out of it. It'll just be, it'll taste like tuna.
So Ricky and Shopkins, Fisherman's Processing say it's like the package that you get your fish in, whether they process it, right? It's just a vessel. So if you're ready to eat it, cut it out, take it out of that thing, put it on the bed, paper towels in a bowl, in a plate, right? And then like they change the paper towels. Yeah. As it defrosts, it's going to whip all that moisture out of it.
Exactly.
It makes a difference.
It does, and you can see it. Just take that time. So in the morning or the night before, just take it out of the bag and wrap it in a paper towel, and just put it in the fridge, let it defrost in there. It'll be kind of wet. So you gotta get some dinner again. Change it, and rewrap it, and then right before you eat it, then you'll see how it just cuts clean, and it's just the best. Yeah, just the simple stuff, right? And so we're gonna talk about that on the podcast if we get to do the sponsor. But yeah, sushi's big, right? From the sushi shrimp to shrimp tempura to eel, octopus. There's so many things you can do, and so many sushi bars now. Again, I started with only 7. There's probably over 207, 307, I don't know. And a lot of them, like, let's say there's 300, like 250 are local. Yeah, you gotta you find the right place, or you find someone that you like, right? So there's like, so Ota, when he trains all these chefs, they've already left a lot of them. So like Ken Sushi Workshop's very good, he's from there. Hane, there's one, Tokadoro from in Old Town, I think they got a Michelin star. Then Soichi, I think they got a Michelin star. These all came from Ota, they kind of leave the nest and kind of go out and do their own thing, right? And, but Ota's still very good. Ota's very, obviously traditional, and you get a lot of Japanese dignitaries there because of this fish comes from Japan, and he kind of still buys it from the airport. He's from the airport. But yeah, sushi is just, when you go fishing out there, like even at Ikejime, right? I mean, do that if you have the time. I mean, fishing is good. I mean, pick one that you like, and kind of just take care of that one. But definitely bleed it. Definitely bleed it, right? You just cut it right here in the back fins, right? You throw it the tail, and it'll be a different color. And especially you gut it. If that's when you're going to eat, gut it, right? And pack ice with it. When you gut it, put your hand in there, it's pretty warm, right? So you feel that and pack that with ice. Like say you can do that. So when I go fishing with some of these guys, at least there's one fish we're going to try to do sashimi with. And so we take the first or second trip and just kind of bleed it and start packing it, And yeah, bleeding is key to some of this fish. Like bonito, right? We have bonito, like poke or sashimi, right? Yeah, or skipjack.
A lot of people say that's horrible, but if it's handled right.
Yeah, if you eat it, yeah. Yeah, in Hawaii, you eat a lot of skipjack in Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah, and bonito is usually when you make miso soup, those flakes, that comes from the bonito, right? They make it, they put it in the ground, and they fall the rock, and you shake it and stuff. But there's so many things you can do. I mean, there's from oysters to like mirugai, like kiwi-duck, right? Some of the stuff got really expensive. Like the sushi bars got really popular. Like kiwi-duck from Seattle is probably the best, and it's probably now close to $30 a pound. We get it with the shell on, and before it was cheap. But it's the best. If you had kiwi-duck, it's amazing. It's like a crunchy clam. Right, it's the foot, the trunk part you eat, and you can eat the inner side here. And the story goes when I was working in Japanese restaurants, and my head chef, he would make out of the inside of the clam, he would make a special, and he would call it, and I would ask him, what is that? And he'd say, it's giant crumb. Giant crumb. And I'm like, I don't see no giant crumb on the menu. He said, a giant crumb, right? And there's no L in their language, right? And I would tease him, and he was like a keto master with you. I tried to keep my ass at one point. It was just fun. It was just fun. You always like to drink, so you always buy me drinks, so we have a good time. But the sushi's hot. I'm telling you, bring someone to a meeting, or you're having a meeting with someone, bring them to a sushi bar. You can close that to you real fast, right? You can drink a little bit and have some good sushi, and it's. I've seen it done many times with a lot of these guys. I've built so many of these restaurants, and a lot of them, and it's definitely a business deal when a lot of these guys come in there, and more so back then. Now everybody needs it. It's like with now, the doctor says eat more fish, right? At our age, and then the kids want it, and everybody in between. So sushi's really popular. Not to say that you can open a sushi bar and kind of make it last or a success. But you get this bluefin tuna, just save it. Like right now, we're not catching it, right? So get all the one from the summer, and eat it during the winter, and it's that stuff. I can eat that stuff just like it's out of the bag. And any part of that is. If anyone asks you, you want bluefin, just don't even hesitate. Just yes. No matter what part of it it is, And so even the scrape, when you take the scrape, like from the tail. So we don't cut all the way to the skin. We cut probably a half an inch below or above the skin, and we scrape that with a spoon because all the tendons are there, and more so the tail, right? So if you cut that and try to have sashimi, it'll taste good, but it'll be really chewy. So you take a teaspoon and you scrape away from the tendons, and that's what we call scrape doing. You'll see how different it is. Yeah, you take that time, and I'll do that one day for you guys. That's what we're doing at Roberto, so we did all that. I did all that before I came here, and that's what people want. I've been doing that a lot. I mean, already season when you do the captain reception, you take a whole fish, and we just go to town with it. Everybody, when you see everyone just happy and doing it, having it, when they eat it. I mean, we're just cutting it. But a lot of people don't know how to cut fish. So you get to these chefs, they call themselves sushi chefs, but they don't know how to cut fish. So I'm like, how do you call yourself a sushi chef? Right? So that's what I do, is I take the whole fish and just cut it in front of everybody. It's just a whole different experience. Right? And again, a lot of people haven't seen it, but they haven't.
So if we have tuna, the best way to eat bluefin is sushi.
Right.
But then what's next? Is that poke?
Poke's good because it has a sauce, so the sauce can actually mask it. If it's a hint of smell, you can mask it. So that's what we do, right? So sriracha, sriracha's the best, right? That's to say it can be 40 years old, but you can mask it with that, right? So spicy tuna, be careful, it could just be masked tuna from yesterday or 2 days ago.
But then after the poke, would you grill it?
I would grill it. Or even, it could just be the best tuna sandwich ever, right? You put a little mayo in that, and that's why I tell people that stuff where you jar it, right? You can or something, you kind of see it. But but that's it. Because you have a 100-pound fish, you're not gonna get rid of it, right? So
Yeah, you want variety there.
definitely. Yeah, just do all kinds of stuff, and then pull it again. It's that paper towel. You see how simple it is, but that paper towel will give you a whole different. Even with salmon, all fish, right? Halibut, your whitefish, salmon, yellowtail. Paper towel will draw that moisture out. You'll see the color will be a whole different color, but it'll be you can really taste the fish. You can really taste the fish versus that. If you look at it, it's just great in there. It's just horrible. Like, people can't see that. Eat a piece of that, But it's it's just hard to train. You know how it is. Everybody wants to be on stage and 2 weeks of work and not doing all that work, but the skills, right, and the cutting of the fish and the portioning of the fish and taking that time, right? Y'all want to do sushi, but no one wants to do the prep, right? But so if you can't do the prep, then you have no fish to teach you either, right? But that's the harder time. But one of these days we'll do a whole class and I'll show you what it takes at that point. And, sushi's really hot right now. It's unfortunately I've been lucky. I wasn't even no one was even my major in college actually was aviation. So if you think of sushi on roll, the acronym is SOAR, right? So that's how we kind of created that. But not knowing what it was going to bring to me at this point. But we do a lot of events. Like Super Bowl, we did over like 50,000 pieces in like 4.5 days. We get phone calls. We did this year, and now with COVID 2022, we did parties for like 1,500, 1,200, 3,000.
We get the Super Bowl coming out here.
Yeah, it won't be only when it's in town. So when it's in town, the commissioner does a party with the Hyatts. So we are in the Hyatt, I know one client at the time. So 2003, so after 9/11. So they had it at Miramar, and you were only invited to take a bus. They didn't tell you where it was at because of 9/11. So you just took the bus to Miramar, and then they had a party. So it was like, I don't know, 6,000, 8,000 people, and then 900 VIPs. So we got to meet like Tom Landry, Don Shula, Earl Campbell. These guys were on that side. We're doing all the sushi here. And only when they were in town. So we even did the after party. It was at the Marriott. We did that after party for the people who worked the Super Bowl. They did after party for them. So we watched the Super Bowl in its entirety. And yeah, it was fun. We just get crazy phone calls. I mean, I've done Titanic. I did Titanic down in Mexico for like 12 times. We did Pearl Harbor, like Hollywood between 2002 and 2007. Maybe even 9. We did Hollywood was a big climb. I did Angelina Jolie's parties. We did Jamie Foxx's movies, Jim Carrey's, Tom Cruise flew me to Kentucky for Elizabethtown twice. But Titanic was fun because we were down here. It was down in Rosarito, and we got to go on the set and kind of watch everything, almost from start to finish. And that was a crazy one. But yeah, no one does what I do, right? So it's so unique on and going to all these parties and doing stuff. Or back then, we were doing Franco Presti's. We were doing his 100-pound tuna club at the time. Right, and so all the fishermen would kind of, that's when I knew that a fisher is good, and you can't really fish to these fishermen, right? Especially all these captains and owners of the boats. So we got fish from, I think we were getting that from, Ted Dunn, I think was getting the fish, right? Ted Dunn with his farm, I think he was kind of supplying us with that fish, and we get some other fish for negating sashimi. And we did that for years, but that's why I knew that our product is good, because we get these fishermen who kind of come on, I mean, they were eating it all. We do whatever we bring. It's crazy. And, yeah, that's what I tell my guys. I go, it's chefs at the high end of the hotels that we have to represent. It's their food first, right? And so it's got to be at that level. It's got to be at that level. If you really you try these sushi bars, just sit down and try something easy and simple, and you'll see the rice is horrible off your head. Then go somewhere else. Pay your $20 for your sake and go somewhere else, and yeah, I mean, you should almost have one chance at these places, right? I mean, as simple as the wasabi is definitely a powder, so you have that intensity. So some sushi bars you add that much of wasabi, and other times you add 5 times as much because it lost its heat, right? So that's what it is. So if you go to these guys that understand it, you'll see how intense it is, and it shouldn't be intense to make it hot and blow your head off and stuff. It's just supposed to kind of just give that horseradish kind of flavor. And it was supposed to mask. Back in the day when these fishermen didn't have refrigeration, it would mask that fishy smell.
I got a question. So I want you to summarize 5 years of training in like 60 seconds. I got a loin about this big. How do I cut it for sashimi?
Perfect. So it's a triangle. It's a triangle,
Yeah.
right? So the top loin is what we cut. That's the part that's on the spine. You cut that off. That's what we eat. That's the best, right? You cut that off, and you make it into a square block now. Right, there's the bloodline on one side, so you cut the bloodline off, and it's still kind of off like this. So you make this kind of cut to make it straight as a square. We call them saku blocks. You come straight down and go over again, about a quarter inch or a half inch above the skin. You cut that off, and boom, you should have like 6 pieces there. Right? Pretty simple.
Maybe I shouldn't have said 50 seconds, maybe about 2 minutes.
So you take it, you come into.
We need a demonstration.
Right? You got fish in the car.
You got a piece
So
of ham.
so it's a triangle. So
Right.
one piece comes out,
Yeah.
so it's kind of oblong like this, kind of. The bloodline, so you cut the bloodline off, and how that kind of comes out. But this piece will be almost a triangle piece to make it squared out, right? So you take that off, now you got a square block. So you take a square, you just come right down, and then you cut them all off, right? So there's 4, 5, 6 pieces, right? Now you gotta look at the lines and the tendons.
Right.
So yeah. So you have to cut it against the grain. It's so much to it. So that top loin has no tendons because it's attached to the spine. So you need the whole thing. It's not chewy at all, right? If you have chewy sushi, go somewhere else. Sorry, that right. So you have to cut it against the grain. So with the lines of the fish, with your knife, you have to make it extra thin. I got to show you with the fish. Otherwise, if you cut it with the grains, it's harder to tear, right? Just like meat, you have to cut it against the grain to make it kind of tender. Okay? So that too. So that's why the belly is the best, because there's none of that, right? At least the top towards the head. You get toward the tail, and you have more tendons that you kind of gotta look at. But if you do sashimi, it's just straight down. It's just straight down. That's the easiest way to do it. The poke, the definition of poke is cube fish. Cube fish. It's not just hacking fish, call it poke, right? The sauce is very different. The authentic sauce would be like sesame oil, soy sauce, and vinegar, right? And sesame oil is what kind of makes it. But that's the base of it all, right? And so we start off with a ponzu, right? It's vinegar, soy sauce blend with dashi and kombu is how we make our ponzu. But now you can buy it all in bottles, and you just start there. But yeah, there's so many things. Sushi just got so complex when it all kind of got real big.
You sell all that in your store?
I do, yeah.
The seaweed, everything?
So we close on Mondays, so we're open Tuesday to Sunday, but maybe we can, we have a field trip with some people down on a Monday, we can open it up and then we kind of just do all that. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Arnie's,
Guys, question.
go ahead.
So when we're all fishermen here, and when we go catch a fish, right, this thing gaff, boom, flop on the deck, it took like a while to calm this thing down, right? Right, and so, but like, that's a lot of damage to them, and
That's why they spike it right.
Yeah.
we try,
So
right?
you're trying to spike it, yeah. We just get it the whole, some of it gets pretty damaged, but otherwise, even when it's next to each other, right? You get a big fish, even if you get like a 200-pound fish and you let it sit here, if you let it sit, it'll just bruise, right? So you can't just let it sit. So even, and like Arnie said, if you have two fish together, it's gonna bruise it too. So that's why like the RSW water, they kind of float a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So even that with Sean, who does processing, he has water in all those blue tubs, so those fish aren't just laying on top of each other, they're floating, right? So they're not bruising. So bruising, nothing wrong with it. You'll see when you cut it, it's just obviously softer, right? But when it's running like that on the deck, and it just depends on it, catching a ton of fish, don't worry about it. But if you kind of handle it right away, if you bleed it, it might kind of calm it down. But definitely the EKG made through the forehead, if you had time, it'll kill it almost instantly.
It's really amazing. Well, World Stars is a great example of how well they take care of fish once it's on board. Spike, you get the guts out of it, try to get that thing cooled down, they run the hose through the fish, try to cool that thing down as fast as they can. They do a wonderful job.
So they got him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then you got them. That's why like we get to you, you'll see them trailing behind the boats, the big fish. They're trying to pull that fish down. That's why they're pulling it back there, because you bring it on board and you gut it, and it's just
Try to get all the water acid out of it.
Yeah.
Well, the longer the fish, the longer it fights, the hotter it gets.
Oh, yeah.
Good, yeah, and that's why you want to fill it with ice. So what they do is to make it clean, they cut the gills, cut the top of the gills, and then with the little butthole here, you kind of cut it in the inside. From the gills, you can pull all of that out. It's pretty crazy. So I've seen it done, bluefin down at this farm. They would do 200-pound fish in 30 seconds. So the Bronco by then was brine. And that's what you want, right? But obviously the faster you get into the water solution or some sort of brine or RSW, the better to get it cold. But if you eat that one on the boat, just tell the deckhands, hey, I want this one. Just have a full of ice.
Is there meat in the cheeks on it?
There is, but it's hard to get out when it's raw. If you cook it, the little nugget will come out.
It's like the hell cheeks.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You can kind of see it there. It's like a little piece. But now even the bone marrow of some of these big fish, So you take the bone right, you cut it right in the middle, and there's a little gelatin there now. So you take a little soy sauce, a little lemon, and just suck on it. Little oyster. Yeah, but the smaller ones, you can't even get that little wire. Like a 150-pounder, you can start with that. Start with the tail. Exactly. So we used to do the beer and sake festival up at Hera. We take the whole fish, and that's when we started doing all that. And do the bone marrow shots. And, everybody wants it. You eat the whole animal, right? Kind of the collar and the head and all that stuff. And then, I just see we'll do one. I'll compare. That's why I like going to Cedros, because I compare the local yellowtail to the Japanese yellowtail, and side by side you can totally tell the difference. But fresh is fresh, right? So, but you can really tell if you have yellowtail, Japanese yellowtail, it's gonna melt in your mouth. But the local one, if it's fresh, it's gonna be on a different day. It's gonna be just as good. But you pay, like, local yellowtail, I can probably buy for like, probably under $6 a pound, right? Local Japanese yellowtail wholesale, I'm paying almost 20. Right now, along the price, so it's like bluefin versus bonito or skipjack, right? I mean, skipjack is good, you put that, you put poke sauce on top, and it's just like, oh my god. A little bolder, like Tommy Gomes, he does this dry aged tuna now. You gotta go there and try it. It's amazing. It's just a little earthy, a little more earthy, and it's just different kind of yummy. And now he takes opa, he does a dry aged opa, and he takes a microplaner, like a Parmesan cheese, with this opa, and you don't even know what fish it is. It's nice, salty, and yummy. Yeah, put that on your salad or anything. It's just. No, he has Tunaville Market now. He's in Point Loma, right? Yeah, so he left before COVID. But I buy from all of them. I buy from Catalina, Santa Monica. So we do sushi at Jimbo's. We do grab-and-go sushi at Jimbo's, and we're the only organic sushi in town for that. So they've approved what we bring, sustainable, organic, and so we do like, I don't know, like today we probably do like 500 rolls for 4 stars. And, yeah, you got a good crew, and we know volume, and that's why a lot of these guys call us. And many times, when we get a phone call from, say you want to open a sushi bar, you call Tommy calls me, and kind of hook up. Yeah. But Tommy Gomes is good. He'll tell you a lot. He's out there. So we do stuff together. He brings us fish, he has the fish, and then me and my guys bring it down even further. And sashimi, nigiri, or poke. It's just fun. Especially with him. He's kind of like a lot of times he'll hire him for an hour, he'll hire me for an hour. A lot of times when he knows that I'll be there, he says, no, Jeff and I will do 1 hour. Right? Otherwise we won't do it. Because we do it together. We just kind of say, we make sushi for everyone.
It's like that thing that they used to do at Fred Hall, with the Scott.
Oh, right.
What it is, it's a good banter between the 2 guys, you know.
Yeah, that's what you want.
It's really entertaining.
Yeah.
You guys are super knowledgeable.
Definitely. Yeah, but fish is good. Fish is all day. I mean, that bluefin, I can man, when I get that bluefin, I get these guys. They're turning around, and you guys rear all their fish and stuff. There, I'm picking whatever you got up, and yeah, stuff is just. And for me, I don't, as long as the guts are out, I'll take it. I can keep the head on, I'll finish it. But, yeah, as long as the guts are out. People are bringing you fish, make sure that the insides are out. Because that's all the bacteria. Yeah, it's all the bacteria. The longer it's just in there, you start to lose the bacteria in there. Then you can probably just go, don't worry about it. Yeah, you don't want to. Again, some of these guys, when they fish, they just kind of want to keep it. Because I'm doing a party for next Saturday. And I'm like, hey, you didn't even clean it. It's like, I can't use this. You know, right? You got to cook this whole thing now. Yeah, I don't want to chance it, right? I mean, you want to do whatever you want. But I can't chance that.
What about the argument of don't eat fresh fish, you gotta freeze it for a while?
Not necessarily freeze it. Fresh fish is good, but you want to chill it. So on the boats, right, that tuna's, probably high 60s.
I mean for the parasites, that's what I'm going.
Yeah, and that depends on where you get your fish too, right? So even from our fishmongers, if we don't really know where they get it from, freezing is a curing process, what we do. And it holds it, right? So I can't use 10 pounds of fish right away. So I can freeze it and use 3 pounds, 3 pounds, and 3 pounds, right? Yeah, freezing, that's what, again, with stores, they'll say previously frozen. Again, it's a curing process. But you want to, even when you catch it out of the boat, you want to chill it. It'll strength a little bit, it'll tighten up, we call it, and get really cold. You want at least 41 degrees. 41 degrees just goes down. It's a really nice, cold vodka ice. It's not nice and easy, right? And yeah, I mean, you can eat it at 69 degrees and stuff. It's just warm and just a little bit different, but you chill it. Right? Even on the boats, if you're coming back in like 2 hours, you can put it in the freezer. It won't freeze, but you can get it to that temp before you start eating it, And yeah, just break it down. Right? If you don't have any ice out there, just play it, throw it in the fridge or the freezer in the boat. And yeah, when you get on land, it's amazing. They just chill it, right? A lot of these guys, they just catch it and start eating it. It's just like a warm piece of meat. I mean, it's okay, but it's not gonna hurt you. But you want something that's good and kind of just, you guys appreciate it. Yeah. But yeah, we'll do something.
So I just have one question.
So,
Yeah.
so you cook it 1-to-1, right? After it's totally done cooking, you put it into a Tupperware. It has to be a non-stainless steel bowl. It cannot be a stainless steel bowl. That's me not, right? Because you're trying to capture more starch onto the plastic bowl, right? So you take the hot rice into the bowl and you put the vinegar on top. So that would be, so 50 cups, we do 2 cups, right? Yeah, so if you're doing, say, 5 cups at home, it's probably like 5 to 6 tablespoons, very little, right? So just a hint of flavor. You don't want to put the whole bottle on, right? Just do a little bit. And you'll see it, it'll get all kind of wet again, but the rice is still kind of, it's pretty crazy. But just a hint of it, and you don't need a whole lot. And yeah, when you get to that point, because otherwise you cook it, once you cook it, it should be at its best when it's done cooking, you can see it. It should be fluffy, kind of bigger grain and all that. So when you mix it in here, it should just kind of like fall apart, right? Because there's less starch in it. When you put the vinegar, because it has the sugar in it, it'll kind of start to stick back.
How much sugar do you use?
It's already a bottle. There's a bottle seasoned.
Oh,
Yeah, seasoned vinegar.
Just
sugar
get back.
salted. Yeah, that sugar salted is the best. And so you have rice vinegar, and you have seasoned rice vinegar. By the one that has the sugar salted. It's perfect. Because otherwise, we would make rice vinegar, and we would actually put, it was like 7 cups of rice vinegar to 4 cups of sugar to 2 cups of salt. And we would cook it to dissolve all that first, right? But now you can buy it, so you want to just buy it, which is consistent. It's like, it's consistent. Yeah. We had a lot of that stuff, we wouldn't be in a bottle yet. Seasoned rice vinegar, yeah, we'll do something. It's like Gary will get a budget done. Yeah. No, it's cool, it's kind of interesting. That's why I bought this store to kind of do stuff like that, and then kind of have a good time. But they called me, they got my number and all that. And
Like if we change our meetings to Mondays, then.
yeah, there you go.